Man, I hope I can make this video work out. I'm kind of still new to YouTube, but this should be pretty interesting. I've got a motor and I refreshed it. I'll explain that perfectly or better here in a second, but it's low oil pressure when it gets up to operating temperature. So my engine stand, I may talk about it throughout the video, but it's horrible, but it works. So it's getting the job done. So I went and bought, let's see, I'll talk about that in a second. I actually didn't order this, but they sent it, so I'm gonna use it. It's a rebuild kit for an oil pump. Well, I went ahead and ordered a cheap one, and then I ordered just a standard, then I ordered a high flow. So we got to test them. Of course, I'll add the link in the description, but if you go back and watch the video where this started, this was just a core motor that I got off a guy, and I think it got run hot, it was sludgy, wasn't nothing major wrong with it. So what I do is I go through, and the head, my brother rebuilds them, regrinds all the valves, gets the valve stems, valve seals, all that stuff. Well, I go through, hone it, and put new pistons, new rings, new rod bearings. And for the most part, I never touch the timing chain. I've never seen one jump time. I've never seen one go bad. In a 4.0, 2.5, different story. Cam and lifters, that's a touchy subject. We may get on them, but I'll leave them the same. And then main bearings, I've never seen a main bearing go bad in Cherokee for under normal circumstances. I'm not going to start it because I want everything baseline cold for when we test the other ones. But this thing, when you crank it, starts out at 50, and I got it down, I think I've got a video I'll throw in of it getting down to about 10. We're essentially at about 150. Yeah, there it is. That's about as hot as it's going to get without just a radiator. And right at 10 is what we got. And that's basically, I wouldn't call it cold, but the engine temperature is about 150. You know, I can make it get as hot as it needs to with this system. But like driving down the road under load, that gets the oil temperatures and all that stuff out of, you know, different tolerances. That's what I want to replicate. I want to be sure every test we do with all those other parts are as equal and the same as I can, you know, make them for the best of what I got to work with. So this is where it's going to get interesting. I got to wonder, I was like, what if the oil pump can't get the oil to pump to the motor? Or, you know, I don't know if it's lifters, if it's bearings, or if the motors itself is losing oil to not create pressure. And I get that flow and pressure is a different thing, and I get that I'm not a scientist. We're not going to get on that subject. This is just simple stuff. We're going to keep it that way. So what I'm going to do is I was just going to put a hose right here and how long it takes to pump the oil out of here. Well, I got to dreaming on that. If the motor is losing it internally, as it's pumping from there, it's going to be losing it out the motor. So what I did is I went and got a oil filter relocator kit, and turns out it didn't come with what I need, or it didn't come out with everything I need. But one of these has got to adapt into right here. So I'm gonna get rid of the oil filter, and then I'm gonna put this on there, and I lost my hose. But I've got the only jug I could find, but that should be 6 quarts, and I'm sure it's not gonna pump all 6 quarts out, but I'm gonna try my best to time how long it takes every oil pump to pump every drop of oil out of the motor. So let me get all this set up and we'll see what happens. All right, I hope I can get this right. So I'm a little off on my parts, but I think I can still make something work. I was hoping to take this, which is your new oil filter base for your relocator kit. I was hoping that it would just simply screw on, and it would if I would cut it off there. But I don't want to cut it off there because I may could use this later. So my next dilemma was oil comes from outside in on an oil filter. That way it's got more surface area. Actually, I don't know that, but it sounds good. So if you look right here, the port, I'm gonna spin the oil pump. That's pumping it out of there. So I can't capture that. And that's what I was gonna say. I am gonna top this motor off every time I do something to pump out. And I'll be using the same oil that I run in like all my Jeeps. So no, there's nothing wrong with the oil. Yes, it's cheap oil, but it'll work. Okay, so my next thing was I was gonna put an oil filter housing back on the block, and then now I can screw this to here. I still need an O-ring. I'll figure that part out. I can put the gasket maker, or I may actually make one. So that should screw to there, and now whichever one it'll be. And this is how I know this is for the oil filter. The one that says in would be coming from the motor, and it's going to come right here, which is going to come outside the end. So this is for the oil filter. I know that, you know, you bolt it somewhere. So now, like I said, I'm gonna bolt this to the motor. The oil's gonna get pumped in here, this chamber, and then this is gonna go right here. So it's gonna go through the little hole, and then I got a thing to screw in there, and then this port will be non-existent. Really won't even make a difference for the video's sake. And that's one thing, I read some comments one time, somebody talking about oil pressure. The oil ring between here and there could be leaking, and I get where you're coming from, but it makes no difference. It's oil's coming from outside, which would be this side, and then it's gonna go in this housing. It's gonna go, let's see, it'll go through here, through the filter, through here. Now it's gotta go through them holes back into the motor. So even if it was bleeding across that, it's still going right into the motor. So it wouldn't even make a difference, honestly. But for the video's sake, I'm gonna weld that hole up and I'm gonna weld that hole up just to make sure no oil goes back in the motor, so everything's good. So I think I got everything mapped out. Be back. Sweet, I think we're good to go. Got a bolt, got the hole welded up, got those sides welded up. So by the time I put that on there, bolt it down, apply pressure, probably put some grease on the threads, there's absolutely no way for oil to get back into the motor. It can only go out. And let's see, this was the only part I said I didn't have a gasket, and technically there's really not going to be any pressure, so we're going to screw that against there. That's an old one that come off that one, and I'll just finesse it on there. Should be good to go. So get that going, then we got to work on oil pump driver system, which I got an idea. All right, I think we got everything set up. This is going to be up, and that's what I said, it's not going to get 100% of the oil out. I estimate it to go about, I don't know, right in there. We shall see. This is all dry. It's going to, every time I set up, be dry. Gonna pump over there, nothing. And y'all probably can't tell, but I checked it early. It's literally dead on the dot. That's what I said. I mean, as far as being biased to this stuff, I could care less. That makes no difference to me. I'm curious if y'all are anyway watching the video. So I'm gonna try to do everything as fair as I can. The drill, I got to thinking on it. If you can see numbers, which you probably can't, 1650 RPMs in high range with no load. My thinking, by the time it's loaded, should be 800-900, close to idle. So that should work out, and then I'll charge the battery every time. And I'm gonna set my phone here, stopwatch, and I'm gonna watch it with y'all. And when it hits 10 seconds, I'll press go, or I'll pull the trigger on the drill. I can't be as perfect as other channels. I'm just new to all this, so we're getting there. All right, got everything set up. It's kind of a tight squeeze. I have no idea what to expect. I have no idea. I'm not gonna stop the timer. When I'm editing a video, I'll watch it and see if we can come up with the same time. So go on 10. Here we go. That's pretty fast. I feel like that should be fast enough to kind of... That's pretty dang fast. What is it? About 10 seconds to empty a motor? Wow. I ain't gonna lie, that was quite surprising. And I did go back and watch the video. I kind of flinched when it did an air bubble, but I think that's gonna be close enough results we can work with. So I'll probably do it about the same way. I just got scared it was gonna blow oil in my face right there through the jug. So yeah, about 5 quarts it pumped out. So there's still some left in there. So at this point, I reckon I'm going to finish draining what's in the, well, I don't have to drain that oil. I gotta pull the oil pan off there, and we'll go from there. Something tells me my wife's gonna wonder why her Roundup jug has a little bit of oil film in it. Shh. All right, definitely not good for me, but definitely good for the video. And that's one thing, if I don't fix this motor in the video, honestly, it's probably better, because I'm going to figure out where the oil pressure is going. But from this video, I want y'all to see the positive out, whatever words I'm trying to use, of the oil pumps. So y'all know exactly numbers of how much this stuff helps out. But where I was going with it, this motor, I took it apart, like I said, new head, new pistons, cleaned everything out, and it didn't even necessarily have bad rod bearings. I may can clip in a scene, I don't remember. But I mean, these are what you would expect from brand new ones I just put in there. They won't plastic gauge it before I put it back up there. But I had a few specs, and they look bigger than they actually are in the video. But I don't know if that's just break-in from them. I don't know. I don't usually take a motor right back apart that you build brand new, but I don't think those are supposed to be there. So, all right, just got the plastic gauge, and it's hard to hold in video. But you can see about 2 thousandths in between 1.5 and 2 thousandths. So that should be good. So we'll keep assembling. There's still on time lapse there. That could be the cam bearings letting go, and that's what I've always heard on oil pressure. So may not be this video, we will figure it out. As of now, that's the oil pump. I don't think I told you in this video that come from a motor that was a core that froze and busted, which run perfect. It was just busted. Should have been good in the first place, but we got the rebuild kit. Never in my life done that, but we're gonna figure it out. And that's what they say, even this bypass governor, that could be a problem. So let me get that off there, cleaned up, and we'll see what that looks like. Before I threw it in the parts washer, you can tell the oil screen is not the problem, and you've seen how much oil it flows, but we'll let that be running through the parts washer as I clean everything else up, or as I do the oil pump, sorry. All right, I feel like I can get this thing quick enough to do it on video. 4 bolts. Like I said, I really don't know what we're looking for, but I'm gonna do it. As usual, they got a little wear right there. I mean, that's just stuff you'd expect. Pop these puppies out. I mean, like I said, everything looks good to me. I mean, it's still how many 100,000 miles, you know, year-old stuff. I mean, it's got wear, but I feel like it wouldn't be as bad as the problem I'm seeing. So I got this governor thing about to come out. No idea how much pressure is on this spring. I might make a fool of myself, but I got it started earlier. So hard to hold. So now my chisel's stuck. Huh. There we go. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. It's probably gonna be hard to get it back together. But there's a long spring. And yeah, that's not stuck. I've watched Steve Morris move those governors around. So that's definitely not stuck, but we'll get all the new parts put in and go from there. Alright, if y'all know me, I don't lie to y'all. The little thing here that pushes in to hold the spring, I went to the vise and just got a bolt and was going to push down, and I was going to start the roll pin there. It won't come back out. So I could just leave it and that would ramp up oil pressure, but that's not what I'm here for. So let me set the camera down. I went and checked. 1/4 will fit inside the spring, or this spring anyway. So little plug, I'm gonna drill and tap, and hopefully it'll pull it out of there. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't know. My problem. I'll figure it out. I hope this works. The drill bit I had wouldn't even put a scratch in it, so that's probably some kind of hardened steel. But I took a paneling nail, turned it upside down, put its head off in there, and then I hammered a nail to wedge itself in there. So now I'm gonna vice grip and see if we can get that thing to pull back where it's supposed to be. Well, my goodness, that pretty much hurt my entire night. I've been jacking with this thing, this plug right here. I've put paneling nails, I've put Allen wrenches, I've tapped it. Just can't get nothing to work. So I had to resort to, well, it turns out the two are like 10 thousandths too big. But anyways, moving on. I didn't like this, but I had to drill and tap so I could actually hammer this out of there. But it don't affect flow or nothing like that, so we're good. I'm just not going to use that. I'm going to use the original one and then the new spring. I think I figured out the metal that I was seeing. I'm pretty sure, well, that motor out there got run really hot, like he admitted it to me. But I think that was a piston where it's galding up the aluminum So I think that's all that metal was, just some that got trapped in a little passageway or something. So getting everything cleaned up, and that oil pump is ready to go. So first thing, whenever chance I get, we'll go from there. What I was hoping this video would be like so short and simple and I'd be done and out, but that stupid thing took 3 freaking hours. Anyways. Alright, maybe today will be a little nicer to me. Last night was horrible, horrible. So I've got the oil pump, it's ready to go on, and then this is cleaned out. And I did forget that I was going to do plastic gauge, so I'm going to go get that and I'll show you the results. And then the next thing, I'll be putting oil in it and seeing if that made any difference on just flow out of the motor. So instead of dry starting the oil pumps like they'll be starting, I could lube them, but it wouldn't be fair to the original test. So like I showed you before, I'm just going to let some ooze out of there and then bolt this, well, there we go. So now I'm gonna let that ooze out and bolt that back on there, and it'll be 100% fair test. Let me get her set up. All right, got new battery on the drill. Everything's ready to go. Like I said, I won't know exact test results till I watch the video. What in the world? Yeah, here we go. Going on here. Almost looks slower. Well, I wasn't watching perfectly, but it looked about the same, if not even slower than the original. One thing I was going to add is with my oil filter relocation kit, somebody opened the box up and stole the part that bolts to the block. So I've got it coming today at 4, but since this is how I started the test, this is how I'm going to keep the test. So at this point, put the oil filter back on and get to run it. I got to thinking, since I had that rod bearing out and I got everything set up, we'll just do this right here to see what it is. 62. If you watch my old video, it was 50. Maybe a pinch better than the old one. I don't know. We'll fit to fire it up. All right, cold start. It's about 77 degrees. I have not started it. Oh, I think the other one was about 50, so let's see. Wait a second, what was that? I may have timed it 180 out. There it is. I don't know if I got that tight. Alright, we're not off to a good start. 40 cold that's worse than the original one I used. It's so amazing you can't buy nothing good anymore. Alright, well let me let it warm up and we'll see where it's at. I'm going to try to get the motor. The other one I got to about 145, so I'm going to try to shoot for that. It's already down in the 30s. It's unbelievably hard to get this thing up to temperature. I had the belt off, but the water in the head got so hot it started boiling and puked everywhere. So we'll give it a few ribs and see what that does. Still not close to 150. My honest opinion, that's worse. That's dipping down into the 7. Still got to figure out the problem, but for the money, the stock oil pump is doing better than the rebuild kit you wasted your time and money on. The fan kicked in. I didn't know the fan was turned on. All this stuff was hanging down inside of it. That scared the out of me. Whew. Alright, I was in the middle of a short when that happened. So the verdict, this is, what are we up to? 160, and I don't think it's actually that hot. So far, we're down in like the 5. So the rebuild kit is a complete waste of money and time if you're suffering from low oil pressure, in my opinion. No. No. I need to turn that fan on, but it's right there by hot water. Yeah, it helps. So yeah, like I said, rebuild kit, would not recommend that at all. So I'm definitely curious to see if these even make a difference. Like I said, probably gonna be a different video. I feel like I'm gonna have to tear that motor back apart and figure out what's going on, but I'm trying to help y'all fix it if you're in this situation with low oil pressure. All right, so at this point, I reckon yeah, it's still like super warm. So at this point, I'll let it sit and we'll move on to the engine tech one. All right, it feels a whole lot better, so I'm gonna get her took apart. All right, so I got it off. And what I was gonna say is if you look down there, there's still little reminiscence of whether that's bearing material, piston. I'm pretty sure that's bearing material. And one of the things I got to wonder, I was like, why didn't you try to get the first stuff out with a magnet? Well, I got to dreaming, said these are magnetized, but I'm gonna have to go, I'll figure this out for the end of the video, is I don't think the Babbitt material, that stuff on top of it, is what you would say magnetizable, I guess is the word. So I understand it, and that's what I'm saying. Like tests like these, I get people's gonna be commenting, well, it's this, you're doing it wrong, you should have done it this way. I get it. But the whole point of the video is to figure out if you are suffering from low oil pressure, what's the best oil pump. So I'm gonna get to wherever that material is coming from, but I'm gonna finish this first. So got the engine tech. I reckon I'm gonna go ahead and use my new pickup tube just to do that too. And I guess at the end of the video, we'll cut and see how much actual metal or Babbitt, whatever you wanna call it, is in there. But for now, I'm gonna stick with the same one unless something wild comes up. Engine tech, new oil screen, gonna put it on. I'm not even gonna tell him, I'm just gonna ask him, is Babbitt material magnetizable?
No.
So where's you got a rod bearing?
A rod bearing?
Yeah.
I got a pin bearing.
So they stick to a magnet. So the base of them, I didn't show the camera that, we ain't gonna show. But the stuff that's on there for the bearing, that looks different than a rod bearing, you know? Well,
it's Babbitt material.
That's Babbitt material?
Mm-hmm.
How do you tell if it's in the oil pan, if it's Babbitt or leftover piston?
That's a good question.
Yeah, see, even he don't know. So let me figure some stuff out. I was just burping it here, the engine tech. Oh, that definitely picked up quicker than the one I rebuilt. So I don't know. I think I do remember when I said I was doing the speed test, I said the rebuilt one looks slower. See how this one does. All right, I got everything set up. I don't know if y'all can see, but it's right on full. So here we go. Go on 10. Not off to a good start, it sounds funny. So maybe like 11-ish seconds. All right, well that one seemed a little slower to be honest. But like I said, when I edit the video, I'll get the exact times, but I'm gonna get that off there and get the distributor and fire it up and see what this one does. All right, I completely forgot I built a slip-on exhaust, so it ain't gonna be so loud, but as long as I got my phasing right, she should fire up. No, I don't know why I can't get that right for some reason. Shot up to 60, bouncing around a little bit. 50's okay, but we'll get it up operating temperature and see where it's at. I pulled a couple of these plugs off to get some revs in the motor. Maybe it'll heat up a little faster than normal, but it shouldn't make a difference on the oil pressure. 60 or 50 something. I forgot to say that the engine was operating temperature, but it was room temperature just like the rest of them. I went ahead and slowed the idle back down to normal. So I was in a rush trying to go do something. So, but I won't be as fair as I can, so I'm gonna let it idle, get up to temperature just like the rest of them. Dipping down in the 30s. I feel like that's about better, but I could be wrong. Still not a cure. Well, it's most definitely not good, but I think it's the best candidate yet. We're at 155, 160, which is pretty spicy, and it's about 13, give or take. So, like I said, not fix the motor, but that's better than the stock one, and that's definitely better than the rebuilt. So I might let it run a little more to see what happens, but if not, I'm gonna pull it out and go to the Melling just stock one, see what it does. I reckon that's about as long as I'm gonna run it. Now the fan is on. That's why you have a pressure cap that keeps it from boiling over like that. My concrete's gonna dry. All right, I got it cooled off enough to get the oil pump off there. And this is the Melling just standard one. You can almost tell just a sizable difference. So hopefully this gets us a little farther ahead. And if you didn't watch my other videos, see right there, this one's about 10 millimeters. Well, actually it's probably more than that because they're using countersunk bolts. So somewhere right along in here, I think that baffle there, you have to hit it with a hammer or whatever you prefer to do for clearance issues, but just keep a watch out for that. I'm gonna use the pickup tube that come with the high flow and then swap it over to the other Melling pump. All right, the Melling pump didn't seem to have any pre-lube, so yep, right there. That's what I've been doing with all of them. So let me get everything buttoned up. We'll see what it does. All right, Melling standard volume. If you can see, it is right on the dot. So let me get y'all set up. We'll go on 10. Battery's on green. Looks about the same. That was in the 9s. That was in the 9s for sure, so maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. All right, I do admit it's about 10 degrees warmer than usual, maybe about 17, 18. But if you look outside, it's about to get dark and I don't have any heat, so I'm trying to get this. Yeah, here we go. That's probably the lowest yet on startup. I don't feel like 10 degrees would have done that, but I'll probably let it sit overnight and crank it up in the morning just to see what that is. But I'm gonna let it get up to operating temperature, see where it's at. Well, once again, I would say better. Still, I wouldn't say it's fixed. 145, 150, give or take. And what are we, around 13 maybe? 13, 14. So that is an improvement, but is it really worth all the trouble? Do know, don't rebuild it, but very curious about the high volume because that definitely cured my Jeep. And then we could tear a motor apart after that. I'm just curious what a hot start would look like. And again, this is not hot. This is like idling temperatures. If you was driving down the road, this would be bad. Yeah, that would be scary to never see your oil pressure go past, what did it didn't get past 40. Not good. All right, I actually didn't forget. I was gonna crank it up and see what actual cold oil pressure is, or room temperature anyway. So honestly, that seems a little lower than the rest of them at idle. So we'll cut the filter open at the end of the video, see if anything stopped up. I doubt it, but who knows. So now I gotta get the high volume and hopefully this one makes a difference. We will see. All right, real quickly, I was gonna show you the high volume. You can see right there, I've kind of ground off the edges and then it'll sit down in there about like that right there. So just that piece of baffle, just hit it down there with a hammer. I'm sure there's probably better ways to do it, but that's all I did on that another Jeep, and this one I really care less. So curious to see what this thing does. Maybe the high volume won't squirt me right here. Yep, seemed to prime a little nicer, so see how fast it pumps all the way out. I mean, this should be its place to shine if it's gonna do any good here. All right, the only thing I kind of worry about is if the high volume actually bogs the drill down. It is what it is. Best I can do. I started just a fuzz early. I think I'm gonna do that over. Alright, high volume pump with the pickup tube they sent. It's right on the dot, so we're good to go. And that's the only thing I wonder about is the high volume gonna bog the drill down enough that it slows the whole pump system down. It is what it is. I'm doing the best I can with what I got. I now know why directors have those little seams with the stuff rail in there, so they know what they're doing. Hard to read upside down. Let's see, 5 seconds in. I think it stopped at 8 seconds, but it looks like it didn't pump as much out. I feel like most of them was right there on the 5 quart mark or whatever, and that's what I was wondering. But if you think the pump's taller, but the pickup tube mount's the same, so I don't know if I just didn't get it tweaked as good as the other ones, but I feel like that's faster. But I don't know why I didn't pump all the oil out. Oh well, we'll fire it up here in a second. I about forgot about the whole Babbitt material. Oh, if it's magnet, I just looked it up. Well, it's on this phone. Open phone. Several tin or lead-based alloys used for bearing material for crankshafts. So I tried to scratch a bearing off right there, and there's some little dust in the cap right there, and well, it stuck to the table there, but it does not stick. So what I was seeing in the oil pan, Babbitt or aluminum, who knows? High volume oil pump, here we go. Moment of truth. Well, let me take this out. Wow, no different. Well, that's a surprise. So I'm gonna let this thing run, get up some temperature, see where it's at, and we'll cut the filter open and go from there. I about forgot to show y'all, this is the part that I was supposed to get. It screws right there where the filter housing goes. It'll screw on right there, and then you can either use the side ports or those ports, and then you can mount the part that I've been using. You can mount it literally anywhere, and then now your filter will bolt wherever. And I'm actually going to use that on my green Jeep because the control arm keeps busting the oil filter, so I'll actually use that. Still ain't up. Well, crap, I forgot to show. It's been running a minute now. It's at 83, so it actually started probably colder than any of the motors or any of the other times yet. 45-ish. So we're about 30 at 120 or 119, so I think that's better. I don't know, we'll see here in a minute. This still don't replicate driving. Like if you drove this motor, it'd be a whole different scenario. 135, 140. It's looking better, but not good. I think I let it run a little too long. It only showed like 160, but let's see if I can fire it back up for just a second. Alright, so 162, so that's as hot as I've got. We are at about 16. Cut this puppy off. Alright, so I got the filter draining, and that's what I was fixing to say. Oil temperature is about 120. Block still about that. So driving would have completely different pressures, getting all the oil heated and everything actually up to operating temperature. But let's go over the verdict. This was my stock one. It was, if I remember right, it was about 10. After I rebuilt it with that kit, dropped down to like 5. Okay, so definitely wouldn't recommend that. The Engine Tech, I think it actually had the best results. I think it was 17. That one, the stock milling, was about 15, and then the high flow was about, what do we say, about 16. So the cheapest oil pump was actually the best. I'm not going to do it this video, but I got an idea. I'm going to completely eliminate oil filter and see if that even changes pressures right there. I drilled a hole and I was shaking it, and I was seeing some little slivers of material, but I was scared. I was like, if I just spent all week long doing a video on a stopped up oil filter, I was going to lose it. But I don't think there's, I mean, it's obviously got sludge, but let's throw a filter on it. It's still got some temperature in it, and just see what the filter does. All right, there's that one. I was going to use the one I used in my other oil pressure video, but I figured somebody'd have something to say about it. So went and found a no idea, but it was sealed. So yeah, engine still 160, so that should be adequate results. If this fixes it. Okay. Yeah, we're back where we was. Goodness gracious, I was about to lose my mind if oil filter fixed that after all this. So I'm tired of looking at this motor. This video took all week long. Hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, changing everything. So I hope this helps somebody. I know it's probably not the result somebody was wanting to see, but I wanted to kind of prove a point. In my opinion, if your Jeep is below 10, drive it till it blows up, honestly, and don't waste your money on oil pumps, because you can see if it's, you know, if it's like 20 or something, I think it'll the high volume probably will help, or just a new one. At this point, I don't see the high volume even making a difference. I think just a new pump. So that motor will get dissected, and we will figure it out, because I want to know for myself, and I want people out there that's always been curious, because if I didn't know it, I don't feel like there's many people that did know. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.